Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the One Wheel Peel podcast. I'm your first co-host, Carbonated. Joining me today is the second co-host.
Natron the Giant here.
Today, we're covering over engines, everything in specific since the dawn of time of the automobile all the way up to current day. Probably not actually going to go back towards like the 1900s or like early 1900s, but
the Duesenberg V16 all day.
So, but we're essentially just going to be covering, the best and worst engines, period, both sounding as well as just best production ones that we've seen that kind of stick out to us. As well, on top of that, we're going to have the best and worst swaps to put into your vehicles, or even just ones that we've seen that are kind of either cursed or we actually kind of respect. After that, we're going to be talking a little bit about power levels of motors, kind of where we stand on a lot of things with all of that. And then the last but not least, to add a little bit of boost therapy into the whole ordeal here, we're going to be talking about turbos and superchargers and even nitrous and naturally aspirated engines, depending on the project, depending on what you want. That's the topics today. Well, let's get right into it. Well, I'd say best engine. Overall, just best engine. I got
overall, so are we going sound or just performance and everything overall, period?
Well, I think right now, best engine, it's really hard to kind of nail a lot of like performance, just everything, right? But if I had to say best engine, period, in my opinion, I'm sorry, I gotta go the Coyote for best engine, like 5-liter V8 Coyote. Well, you gotta think, dual overhead cams, right?
Yeah.
And right off the bat, from 2011 up, all you got to do is just change out a couple oil things and timing on the engine, and you could twin turbo it and make double the power of what came off of production. That engine itself was able to capably, like in the production standpoint, was capable, stock block, everything, of holding 800 horsepower at minimum, I think. And so, I mean, I gotta say that's probably one of the best motors we've seen. And now even coming out where we have the Voodoo and even the Predator, which are 2 steps up from the Coyote, bored out to 5.2 liters with superchargers, and the Predator making 760 horsepower right from factory. And then we've got the Voodoo making, I think that's 540 horsepower right from factory as well. And then even with Shelby and Ford now combining forces, making the Code Red, which I think is 1,200 or 1,300 horsepower. It's insane, and that's why I will say the Coyote brand there. I think to today is probably one of the best motors that we've seen out of production cars in the past decade at minimum.
Okay, all right. Let me counter you that with an engine from across the pond. It's still a V8, so in that realm of power range and respectability. It's the 4-liter bi-turbocharged AMG GT engine.
Okay.
Cranking out about 570-ish horsepower or so, 570, 580, depending on the package you get.
Mm-hmm.
The thing's it's a tank when it comes to performance and reliability. The thing is, I mean, you're not going to go through that block.
Oh no.
Aftermarket stuff with it, like you were talking about, some of the extra tidbits to add more horsepower to it, that's a little harder to come by. But when you're working with the level that AMG is at,
well, yeah, and I mean even
the production value.
Yeah, you've got Mercedes that's such a high-end deal that essentially, like when you buy the car, it's like you buy the car, you buy the package with it, right? You get the whole ordeal.
Well, yeah.
But Mercedes recognizes it as well, like this is our coupe, this is our sports car, this is our deal, and this is what we bring to the table with it.
Mm-hmm.
And
they do it damn well.
Yeah, and as a non-Euro guy, I give props to Mercedes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but with that too, if we're going to talk about best overall engines too, I mean, one thing that when we're talking about cars like this, like performance, all this. Another thing we don't talk about is like the daily stuff, like the gas mileage.
Yeah, yeah.
The 4-liter bi-turbo on an open road gets 20 to 21 to the gallon, which for a big V8 like Mercedes puts out, that's kind of impressive.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Compared to your Coyote, which is like maybe what, 12?
Probably 12 to 15. Yeah, I mean it's better than Dodge is getting like 8. So
That's true. That's true.
I mean, but now that we've kind of covered our personal little performance motors, why don't we go into best sounding?
Ooh, this one was tricky for me because there's a
I
lot of cars that sound so good. But
I
there's also a
know.
lot of cars that sound like straight dookie.
Oh yeah, and I definitely I'm in the same side as you. It took me a little bit to kind of form up this list because I frankly there's a lot of engines I love hearing running and like driving, and they
Mhm.
just sound mean as shit. But I think I speak for every car enthusiast when I say best sounding overall is the Lexus LFA V10 with a flat plane.
Yeah,
I I'm
that's one I will second all day.
and the only other one that I can say that might sound better would be Pagani's V12.
Oh,
The
The Mercedes engine that they built, the
that's
Zonda or the
yeah,
Huayra.
the Zonda.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
that's my that's my V12.
like I'm sorry, but it's just the way that it is. It's just both of those sound amazing, and the fact that the flat plane is breaking into car production, and
Hmm.
I like you and I had to talk about this earlier, where the way that the flat plane is evolving, and everybody wants a flat or productions that use a flat plane.
Hmm.
They're looking to. I think they're looking towards the LFA and like, how can we have a piece of that glory?
And like I mentioned before in the session that broke itself was the new Corvette, the new Sea Corvette.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they're moving to that flat plane. I think it's going to make the Corvette sound a lot better because when we move on into some of our worst sounding engines, I'm actually not a big fan of the American, big block V8s. I think they're too bulky. They sound empty.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's power, but it's empty power compared to like a Mercedes or a BMW and Audi V8, where it sounds like
Oh yeah.
the power's there,
Oh yeah.
right? But with that too, we go back to the performance package, that flat plane crank, you're gonna see that Corvette go from the sports car that kind of is up into that realm of all right, now we can maybe start competing with these, lower end Ferraris,
Oh yeah.
and Lambos, and even some of the Porsches.
Oh yeah.
That's
Like,
gonna be
it's
tough
just the way that it sits. I mean, I just think as it is now, like Chevy might have taken. From I don't know their whole standpoint on it, but like I just said, I think that whenever a company develops a flat plane crank engine, they're looking at what was brought out in I think it was 2010 was the LFA's years,
though. Yes, it
and
was the early tens. It was the early tens.
I mean you got something like that staple that like a lot of us car enthusiasts absolutely love because the sound of that naturally aspirated V10 just
Yep.
sounds so amazing and not I give all the kudos to Lexus on that. The
Mhm.
development on
Lexus
that just
partnering
perfect.
with Panasonic. You gotta remember that they partnered with a piano maker to make that thing sound so freaking good.
And that is why Lexus is actually kind of one of my like back burner companies. I love almost whatever Lexus
Mhm.
puts out. So
Yeah.
now I got a question for you then. So obviously we have best sounding overall. What's the best sounding cold start?
Oh man, best sounding cold start. This one was tough for me because obviously, being from the northern region of the United States, most people are gonna be like, "Oh, he's a diesel guy all the way." No, actually, I don't like diesel. I think it's stupid. I went through. I did some of my research on some cars, and there was a bunch that I was like, "Oh my god, they sound amazing!" Like the Chiron, any of the Bugattis, they sound amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of those. There's some Ferraris that sound good, and actually, the one that I chose was the F12 Berlinetta, that V12.
Okay.
I think starting up right away, it hits hard and it idles right away really good. It's not my idle car, but it idles really well.
Yeah.
Um, the reason for it is when it starts up, we're going to break down the startup a little bit, is it hits right away with a high pitched, the V12 sound.
Mm-hmm.
But then it kind of pulls itself back and it almost sounds like almost like a V8 below V10. It's like, it's
Oh,
not
yeah.
a V12. And then it revs. It's like, all right, holy
Now
Jesus.
it's got some attitude. Yeah.
Now it's going to scream at you.
Well, for me, I'm kind of on the other end of it. I think cold starts kind of belong towards the Chevy LS series,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm not gonna sit here and say that every LS sounds amazing on cold start. It's got to have the right stuff done to it. Like it's got to have decent cam and a nice sounding exhaust. Like our buddy has, I would assume it's almost completely straight piped 5.7 liter.
Yeah,
And
roughly the LS3
like don't get me wrong.
aluminum block.
Don't get me wrong. car sounds good on startup, and that's one of the reasons like I like his car is it sounds good on startup. It just sounds so like loud when he drives it. Like there's a certain tone that I like when I drive, and that's not it. But I will give him very good credit. The car sounds amazing starting up.
And that goes back into my emptiness of it. It's loud, but it's empty loud.
Yeah, and that's why I think like hearing the cam like that, bra-da-da-da-da, you know, like that
Right.
loping every time. I don't know what it is, but that to me is what kind of sells that a little more.
So then going off of that, we could go into what's your best sounding or your favorite sounding car at idle. So
Oh,
this thing is
Oh.
it's warm. It's it's just sitting there,
Oh.
just waiting to get the legs and horses running.
people are gonna hate me, but I gotta stand by my two rotor fans out there. Oh, oh, I'm sorry. There's nothing that beats it. I'm sorry.
Yep.
You get that brop, 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 brop.
Brop, brop,
Nothing
brop, brop.
beats it. I'm sorry. Nothing does. Maybe a three rotor or maybe a four rotor, but to me the two rotor stands above anything at idle all day.
So this might be like the only thing on this list I'm actually going to agree with you on. The two rotor brop, 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 brop. That's such an iconic sound, a classic sound. It sounds so good. The car, it's an RX-7, I believe, right?
Yep, RX-7.
Yeah, it's a great car. It looks
Oh my
good,
God.
sounds good. It's fast. You can go sideways. You can do whatever you want with it. I mean, yeah.
And that's why I
agree
say
with that.
like the four rotor from like the 787Bs that professional race car. Yeah, those sound amazing. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But just the deep tone of the two rotor, and I'll even say into the three rotor too, because the three rotor still got a nice deeper tone on its idle. Just so
Funny you
good.
brought up the 787B. I completely forgot about that.
Yeah,
Absolute monstrous car
Yeah,
going around Le
full-
Mans. Oh,
Four rotor, baby.
yeah.
Four rotor.
Yep. I agree with that 100% of the way.
Now that we got the idle bit, let's say you put it in gear and start driving. What car? What car takes it?
This
driving?
this was another one that was really, really tough for me because, I mean, I'm a big Euro guy. And Euro cars, when they're driving, sound freaking amazing.
Mhm.
Doesn't matter what one it is, minus a few like weird ones. But for me on this one, I chose the GT3 RS Porsche.
Okay, yeah, I will agree with you on that.
So when that thing, when you're watching videos of it going around the green or just going down the Autobahn or just driving in general, it sounds so crisp. It's like it's kind of in realm with the LFA, not to the levels of the LFA, but for like the way it sounds it perfectly represents the car.
Oh yeah.
Like it's not too loud, it's not too quiet, it's not too crazy, but it's not too like soft, right?
Oh yeah.
Like it sounds how the car looks.
Oh yeah, and I will agree with you on that. That's a very close second of mine, but I think you're actually going to kind of praise me for my best sounding, driving. I got a 6-liter Mercedes-Benz V12.
Oh, we're gonna convert him yet.
Just the way it sounded, it was so good. I mean, well, granted, that's the engine that's in a Pagani. So,
Yep.
and Pagani's has always been one of my favorite hypercars, supercars, whatever you want to call them at that point. It's always been one of my favorites, and that sound, that V12, just, I'm sorry, knocks it out of the park. There's the way that Pagani just went with it, it's so much better. Just sounds so good.
Yeah, no, I'm with you like 100% of the way on that one. That was a close second for me as well. Was that or the old the MP4-12, whatever the McLaren F1 car was back when like Hamilton got started. That was another one too. That was like, oh, that sounds so good.
Yeah. Now, we're going to kind of dive a little bit into like the different cylinders. I'll kind of list off. We're only going to do 6 cylinders to 12. So anybody, obviously, you guys watching are going to be like, why didn't you pick 4 cylinders? Well, if you want to hear our 4 cylinders, I guess we could throw them in too. Right off the bat for me.
There you go.
Right off the bat for me, it's got to be the EcoBoost 4-cylinder. And I mean, if I wanted to go a little bit even before that, it's pre-EcoBoost. And the reason being is because of my Mazda Speed 6. I loved the tone on it. I loved the way it sounded when I drove it. And I got a lot of thumbs up when I drove it because it was tasteful. It had a deep tone, whereas like your classic Honda like fart can exhaust is the complete opposite end of the spectrum. My stepdad, when I first started that thing on a cold start, after just visiting at their house, my stepdad goes, "Man, that sounds like my Hemi." My stepdad drives a Dodge Ram 1500. So if he said that sounds like a Hemi, I will fucking take it. I'm sorry, I will take it. That's how. That's my favorite 4-cylinder.
I'm with you now. I mean, I'm not a big 4-cylinder guy. I don't know if you kind of figured that out. I did have a Honda Civic. I had a Honda Civic Sport. So the only 4-cylinder I've ever owned outside of like lawnmowers, which I mean, you can Honda Civic lawnmower. They go together. But I mean, yeah, there's some that I've heard. Some of the SIs that have some like exhaust kits and some stuff to it that actually do sound pretty crisp and clean.
Oh yeah, like if you make a Honda sound good, it sounds like a good 4-cylinder. But
I'd have to back up Carbon on this one though with that 4-cylinder EcoBoost Ford engine. So little backstory, little side offshoot, but it goes with the car. I had some air travel issues and I had to drive back from Dallas back up to Fargo here. And I was getting through. I was like, God, I'm gonna get stuck in some stupid like Nissan Altima or something stupid like that.
Yeah.
And the guy goes like, "Hey, choose whatever car you want." So I was out there just going through. There's some big Cadillacs and whatnot going through. And all of a sudden, in the very corner, I see two like 2017, 2018 EcoBoost Mustangs. I'm like, well, I could take a soft top convertible, or I could take the hard top. I'm like, well, I don't know if it's gonna rain or not, so I'm gonna take the hard top. And I got into it. And the second I started getting on the interstate and down the road and playing with the car a little bit, I immediately fell in love with the thing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
It drove nice. I got crazy good gas mileage. I was at like 32 miles to the gallon, I think, the entire way back.
In a Mustang. In a Mustang.
It blew my mind. I'm like, this shouldn't be happening. The turbo sounds on it were absolutely beautiful.
Am I wrong? The 2.3 liter EcoBoost is now like, I think people are underrating that shit to the fucking moon and back.
No, and I was one of those. Before I drove that car, like, I hated it. I was like, why would you? It's a Mustang. It's 5.0 Coyote all the way, right? Then I drove it. I fell in love with that car, man. Like, I even thought about actually, like, hey, you know what? If I move somewhere away from where it's not -50 for 7 months of the year,
yeah,
that'd be my daily. I would daily an EcoBoost Mustang.
Oh yeah.
Like, I fell in love with it, and I think you can get it at 6-speed.
Yep, you can.
If I remember right.
You can.
Yeah. So I mean, that just adds on to it.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. But let's rope it back in now. So we got a whole bunch of these different engines to cover.
I'll kind of go off the 6-cylinder, 8-cylinder, 10, 12, then you can take it as well. I'm gonna rope the 6-cylinder for the GT3 RS, the 4-liter flat 6.
I'll buy that.
The way that it sounds. I mean, you said it earlier. The way it sounds, the way the car handles everything. The engine fits the car. And it's one of the best sounding 6-cylinders out there. For V8s, I mean, come on. I said it earlier in the podcast here.
Yeah.
5.2 liter Predator motor.
Yeah.
I mean, can you blame me? You get the supercharger whine. It's 760 horsepower straight from factory, paired with a 6-speed. I don't think I'm wrong on that. V8. V10.
I'd argue, but again, I'm more of a European guy. So.
Oh yeah. Well, and then the V10s. Come on, Lexus LFA. You can't beat that. I'm sorry.
You can't. No, you can't.
And then the last one, people probably are gonna hate me for this because I'm not a big Lambo or Ferrari guy, but the 4.7 liter dual overhead cam, 65-degree Typo F130B V12 from the Ferrari F50. The car sounds so good when it drives. Looks like dog shit from Ferrari.
Yeah,
but the engine, I will give them mad props. It sounds good. That's probably that, and the F40 are probably my favorite Ferraris ever produced.
I'll buy you that one. I mean, the F40. I mean, that's in a class of its own. That's like legend god status.
Oh yeah.
In any car anywhere. The F50. It sounds amazing. Looks stupid, and it was designed even like dumber.
It was, if I remember correctly, Ferrari was just like, yeah, we have this great icon of the F40. Here's something that we built to surpass it. is the F50, and everyone's like,
You know what it is?
Why?
You know what it's comparable to? The F40 is the A10 Thunderbolt.
"Yep,
The F50 is the F15 Strike Eagle. Like
no,
no,
no, F14 Tomcat."
Yeah, that's just a.
We don't talk about the
Yeah.
F14 Tomcat. But anyways, I'd say that's like one of the few things. I mean, obviously now, like I think with the 296 GTB with their twin turbo V6
Yep.
that they create,
Yep.
another good sounding V6. But I mean, that engine that Ferrari produced for the F50, beautiful. Sounds amazing.
Yeah.
One of the best engines I think for a V12. The only other one that I could say would probably be the Mercedes V12 motor, but I already had that on the list. So
From Zonda.
yeah.
All right. Well, let me counter you with mine. So my V6, my 6-cylinder, it's going to be a little different from what normal people would expect, right? Because when you think V6s, you think like Porsches, all these other different car
I don't think
manufacturers, right?
Porsche when I think of V6, but yeah.
Right. I do. That's just me though. I'm going with the Jaguar F-Type.
Ooh. Okay.
So the reason I chose this is it doesn't sound like a V6 at all.
No,
It's
it
low.
doesn't.
It's guttural. It's mean, and it wants to eat something.
It's a Jaguar.
It's a Jag.
It's a Jag.
You just don't have the mustache. That would be my V6 based off of those parameters alone. And it looks good too, surprisingly. For a modern sporty car, it looks good.
It's actually kind of in the price range too. It's like the low 50s, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an affordable
Yeah.
European car.
Sports
Not
car.
European, sports car.
It's
Yeah.
like the current day Miata. No, I'm just kidding.
with
I'm
less,
just kidding.
with less
That's
smile.
That's gonna piss a lot of people off.
Yeah. So moving into my 8-cylinder, this is where it's going to get kind of tricky, right? Because on my list, I have two. It was hard for me to decide between two, so I chose two.
Okay.
One's European, one's American.
You went with an American V8?
I went with American V8, and I'll tell you why after the European.
Okay.
So my European one, obviously, it's if you're a European car fan, you like Mercedes, it's the C63.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm sorry.
So
yeah,
that's
no.
one of the
Yeah.
best sounding V8s of all time.
Do you want to? You made the point of that Jaguar V6 like wanted to eat something. That C63 V8,
Yeah.
by God, wants to eat something.
It doesn't want to eat something. It wants to take over a country.
It is. It's eyeing Poland as we speak.
It is. It's like Belgium.
Belgium.
But on the other hand, going to the other side of the pond, on the American side, it's a V8, but it's not a V8 that a lot of people have or can buy.
Okay.
It's the 05. It's the 2005 Ford GT.
Ooh, yeah. Okay. Okay. Okay.
It's one of those like when I go back to say where I say American V8's not empty and broken and there's nothing there.
Mhm.
That's the one where I will say that it sounds like it should sound. It sounds like what it should look like.
Mm-hmm.
That car looks like it's gonna destroy Le Mans, Spa, all those other racetracks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it sounded like it,
Oh yeah.
right? It's proper. It's proper.
To the
it's loud.
the 05, just so people know, the 05 GT, not like the 2016, because we know that has a twin turbocharged V6 EcoBoost. We know it does.
Yep.
It's the 05
Not that
GT.
one. The 05 that looks like the original, 60 was it 60?
66 or 66 to like 67, I think.
Yeah, that one. It looks like that one. Although that's a good one too. All right, moving into my V10. I'm gonna my 10-cylinder. I'm just gonna glance over this one because we have the same one. It's the LFA.
Oh yeah.
It's just you can't beat that one. It's
Yeah.
the LFA. So 12-cylinder. I have two again because it's very 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 hard for me to decide. Both of these are European. First one being the Pagani Zonda, right? That Mercedes engine. I think it just screams like you can't It's
beat it.
it's F1 sounding engine in a car that you can buy. Well,
I was gonna say, I'm
people.
like that I can buy it. I don't have $2 million laying around.
Try closer, like 5 or 6. Yeah, but my other one is another one that's a car that a lot of people don't really know. It's the Lamborghini Monara.
Okay.
It's an older, I think it was like early 80s Lamborghini.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through and watching some videos just to kind of just see what other V12s were out there from the ones that I knew, and I heard it.
Mhm.
It sounded like it's the perfect tone. It was crisp. It wasn't too raspy. It wasn't too high pitched. It was actually lower pitched.
Mhm.
It sounded amazing. That's all I can say.
Oh yeah.
And the car looks, but I think the engine makes up for it.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess with us cruising along here, I think it's about time that one of us, we went to go shift here, kind of grinded some gears.
Mhm.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to talk about who the fuck decided to let BMW help in the design of the Toyota Supra. On today's grinding gears, we're talking about the brand new A90 Supra.
Yeah.
Toyota owns Lexus. Right there. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm leaving it there. I'm done.
Yeah.
Lexus
You can
produced the icon we've mentioned probably 10 times already on this podcast. The fucking LFA. And they decided to go with BMW. Why? Why in God's name did they go with BMW? And not only that, but they let BMW take the entire thing. They literally just went, oh yeah, it looks good to us, Toyota. Like, I'm sorry. The only thing to me, because the new Supra has slowly grown on me, the only thing that looks good, honestly, is kind of the rear end of the car. That's it.
You know what just dawned on me when you said that they let BMW kind of just take control of it?
What?
It looks like the Z, the BMW Z.
Yep.
That really shitty two-door.
Yep.
I hated it now, and I hate it more.
Yeah. That's why I'll say, the only thing that I like about the A90 Supra, okay, before this, the only thing I liked before they added the 6-speed, was the rear end of the car. For some reason, the rear end just actually looked kind of good. I did like that. But the way the hood is, just the way that the car is shaped, it looks exact as you said at the BMW Z. It looks like utter shit.
It looks, yeah.
And on top of that,
like it as well.
BMW platform. It's literally just it's BMW built the damn thing, said, here you go, Toyota. And Toyota's just like, okay.
It's a Toyota badge to BMW Z.
No, I am all for with what Toyota and Subaru did by creating, a unified car where they have the BRZ and the GT86, or now the GR86, right?
Yeah.
That car itself, to me, way better than the Supra.
Yeah.
Even though it's got, I think now a 2.2 liter boxer, maybe a 2.4 liter boxer, I would still buy one of those over a new Supra.
I would buy a new Corolla over a new Supra.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would do. 300 horsepower for 3 cylinders.
Turbocharged 3-cylinder. But
yeah,
it's just, it bothers the hell out of me. And that was one of the first things I thought of when they said that they were teaming up with BMW for this. I'm like, you own Lexus. Lexus is all about style, comfort, and power. Right? A couple of their cars that they have manufactured recently make 400 to 500 horsepower. Right? As daily family cars.
Daily family car.
They're putting that in a 4-door, and you've got the Supra with a BMW inline 6 that fucking suck. and now it's got, I would assume, a BMW 6-speed along with it. I don't know.
Probably.
I don't know. I haven't dug into that. But it's and on top of that, the car looks like crap. It does. It's literally and then other people too, that when they go and upgrade them, or they go and stance it out, it looks like crap. You know what it looks like? Yeah. It looks like you took your 350Z and decided to, put fender flares on it and camber it out to negative 75 degrees. The Supra is okay. I'm gonna say it right here. The Supra's the new 350Z.
I was just gonna say, because the 350Z, I don't know anybody who likes those.
Anybody. That's going into a couple of my things. I don't mind how the 350Zs look from I mind how they look from factory, but when you do a couple of things that actually make them look good, like a couple body kits that look good, or you stance it correctly, then
Keyword.
yes, then it looks good. Because going into our next point, the best and worst swaps. One of the best swaps I gotta say is most of our 2J swaps, which I think from that point forward, the 350Z being the taking over from what the 240SX left off as like a natural drifter. You can go to the track with a 350Z and drift it. You can. And the transmissions, I will give the Nissan a ton of props. The CD06 and CD09 transmissions are amazing. I mean, I'd take a CD09 over it because it handles boost better. But you pair a 2J up with that CD09 transmission, right?
You could put almost 4 figures easy.
Yeah. And I mean, you'll have to change a couple things in the transmission, but you'll make power, you'll drift well. The car itself will perform as if it should. All day. And I guess I did just kind of realize I glossed over this, but because we went over the best engines and completely skipped the worst engines. My bad. But I'm going to sum up exactly how my list went. The VQ35, if I could have put it for every single one, I put it for every single one. It is the worst. It is the worst engine Nissan has ever put it out. And people if you support the 350Zs or the 370Zs or the G35s, G37s, whatever the fuck, right? If you support it, those engines deserve to die. 100%. Terrible oil management. Terrible. They either burn it or they're leaking it. Or they're doing both at the same time. It is terrible. It's a terrible motor. You have to put like 20 grand into the damn motor just to make 15 horsepower. I'm sorry. If I have to put that much money into my car to make that small amount of power, that engine ain't worth it. That's why I'm saying one of the best swaps ever for that car is either a 2J or an LS. And honestly, the way that it sits, 2J would be a hell of a lot better in a 350Z. Or even 370Zs. And I love 370Zs over a 350.
No, I would agree with that completely. And holy, your grinding gears was good this week.
I
got you going.
It just bothers the hell out of me, dude. It does. Right. I mean, if I have to say anything else about worst engines or even worse swaps, if you're gonna put a damn Lambo motor in anything, don't. Lamborghini sucks, especially V10s, V12s. They suck. They sound like crap. They do just no. Don't. Lamborghinis are terrible. Ferraris are terrible, except for the F40. Everything those two companies make, just crap. I'm sorry, crap. The V10.
There's a few I will correct you on. The Countach is freaking good. It was a good V12. Countach was good. I will argue the Aventador SVJ was a good one.
Okay, yeah.
That was a good one. Ferrari, that's a little bit more tough. The Berlinetta F12 was a good one. F40 is a good one. The new SP, what was it, the SP80? That one's not bad.
I don't know.
Terrible. It's like they came out like this year. Oh. I haven't looked hardly at any of it at all, other than it sounds good and it looks freaking like a rocket ship.
Yeah, but
other than that, I will agree with you. Lambo sucks, and Ferrari, stick to F1. Lamborghini stick to just making poster cars.
Yeah, but and then we get into some of these I guess some of your standard swaps, which I'll support. Obviously, you take your 240SX, right? What's your first thing you think of with the 240?
I'm gonna say 2J.
2J or an LS. Yeah. One of the first two things people do with them. I love me a good 240SX. Why would you take the KA24 out of it or the SR20? Why? They're great. And that's another good sounding 4-cylinder for people that are curious.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
I mean, I fully support it. LSs make great power, and a 2J makes great power. It sounds good. Both are good, and especially depending on what you're doing. You can drag race the damn thing. You can drift it, and hell, you can even autocross it. They're all good power plants, except for the VQ35.
He won't shut up.
I won't.
I'll let you know right now.
It pisses me off. And then I guess I would say one of the other best swaps that I've been seeing lately is I follow on Instagram late model Resto, and
Yep.
they support coyote swapping all the like almost all the generations of Mustangs, which is really cool to see. Because again, Coyote's one of
Mhm.
the best V8s we've seen from American Muscle in a long time, and
Yeah.
so and that's why I argue that it's probably one of the best V8s of all time. You know, but you take something that makes 450 horsepower from factory like that, you throw it in a notchback, 88 Fox body.
See, he doesn't like the VQs and the Lexuses. I absolutely despise that era of Mustang. It looks so bad.
What do you mean I don't? I love Lexuses. I don't like Infinities. That's what it is.
That same thing.
It's not, because Nissan owns Infinity.
That's fair.
But anyways, like, it's just the way that some of those are. Like, I mean, I wanted to do it, I did, but I didn't. So, but yeah, and some of the unique swaps we mentioned at work, that some dude a long time ago, or probably like 5 years ago at this point, Ferrari
Oh, the
swapped.
Ferrari
Yeah,
swapped GT500.
yeah.
That's right.
It's one of the coolest swaps I've ever seen. I think Ferrari got pissed off at him, did they not?
Uh-huh.
It's
Ferrari, if you do anything outside of what they built at the dealership, if you do any sort of like modifications to a car,
mhm.
they will send you a cease and desist, and you won't be able to buy a Ferrari again. It's
Oh,
kind
no.
of stupid.
Oh
Oh
no.
no.
But
But yeah, no, going to that, the freaking, I can't remember what engine they put into it. It's a Ferrari V8.
I
Or
thought
was
it
it
was,
V10?
I thought it was a
Ferrari-
V12. I wrote here it was a
Was
V12.
it?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yep.
Because if they got that into that car, that's a lot of power for not a whole lot of weight.
No, and I think if anything, that whole body was carbon fiber too.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Just, but and so
But
you get
going
unique.
off,
You get unique
I was
swaps
like
like
going
that.
off of some of the unique stuff, going into some of the unique stuff that doesn't work.
You're talking about
Going
worse
into-
swaps.
Of the worst swaps that don't work. And for me, I'm not a big, swappy kind of guy. I'm not here to give me this kind of car,
Mhm.
either build it up or just not do anything with it.
Yep.
But going into some of the worst swaps, I'm going to do a whole like genre of swaps, and it's people who LS swap the world.
Thank you.
God, I hate
Thank
those
you.
people so much. There are certain cars that LS deserve to go into.
Yeah.
Other muscle cars. Some you can probably get away with some of the weird, like you can maybe get like a Jag or maybe some
No,
JDM
don't
stuff.
don't LS swap a Jag. You LS swap a Jag, I'm gonna sleep under your bed and I will make your
No.
life hell.
But going back to the point, there's people that'll LS swap friggin', 240s. They'll LS swap Sylvias and Skylines, and I'm like, no, that's just blasphemous.
I support everything except the Skyline. You LS swap a Skyline, it's the same thing as the Jag.
Yeah,
I don't like
Even-
that.
even some American cars that they LS swap. Like I understand, like here's a Mustang, but if you're gonna put a different engine in it, put a different Ford engine in it. Like get like a Predator.
That's-
or get
yeah,
like
that's what I mean.
You're gonna count to Predator or Predator to Voodoo. Don't go Voodoo to LSX. That's just stupid.
Like I understand why. Truly I do. It's a cheaper power plant and you can make stupid power off of it with like very little, I understand why people do it. But I would hate if I owned a 240SX, right? And I showed up to a car meet and I have an SR20 in it, 4-cylinder, nice 4-banger, turbo, everything. And somebody came up to me and said, "When are you going to LS swap it? Or why don't you LS swap it?"
You're gonna kick them in the nuts.
I'm gonna be rather upset because it's like,
Yeah.
okay, first things first, this is my car, so don't tell me what to do. And second thing,
Yeah.
I love this car the way it is. Again, if the engine goes to shit and I can't fix it, then yes, I'll think about it. But
Mm-hmm.
like, I respect people that do it when they have to do it. I don't like, or if they buy a shell and there's nothing in there, then I respect it. The LS power plant, everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you're the kind of person that asks why somebody hasn't LS swapped it yet,
Go
it's
eat
like-
your Dino Nuggies and drink your chocolate milk in the corner.
Yes. It's I'm in full support. Like, The other thing too is I love rotary engines. I do. One of my favorite cars is the
Mhm.
FD-RX-7. It's the same
Yep.
thing. Somebody's just like, "Oh, Apex seals," and it's like, "Oh, I don't care." You know, like again, if the engine takes a shit beyond repair,
Then maybe you can.
I'll
Yeah.
think about LS swapping it. But like the very third thing we talked about for sounding engines. The nothing beats that Wankel engine at idle.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, like I completely agree with you. People who LS swap
Mhm.
everything, it just
It's so annoying. It's not necessary. But I will counter it too. Is another point I have is people who 2J swap everything.
yeah.
There's certain cars that the 2J belongs into.
Mhm.
Most of it's going to be your Japanese cars. But
Yep.
I've seen people who put 2Js in like Mustangs and all the other shit. Like, no, that just does not. Like, if I go to a car meet and I'm going, ooh, Predator, Voodoo, Coyote, LSX, LS7, something like that. And then if I open up like a 2015 Mustang and I see a 2J, I am gonna freaking. I don't even know what I'd do to them. To be honest with
At
you.
that point, I'd probably just stare in disbelief. I'd close the hood and open it again to see if it changes
Yeah.
anything. If
Or
you
it's
know,
going.
like
Or going back to the
man.
whole like rotary like swap too.
I have that
You
written
got this
down.
one.
I have that written down. So
You got this one,
buddy's
too.
a really big fan of the 70 GTO, and as a joke, one day he shows me a 70 GTO for sale, and I went, "Oh, I kind of want it too." I was like, "Maybe I should throw a 13B in it." He looks at me and goes, "If you ever do that, I will find you and I will kill you. I will pay all the repercussions for it afterwards." But he goes, "But you will not do that shit to my favorite car."
Yep.
And I was laughing so hard at that moment. I was almost like, as hard as I was laughing now, I was like 3 or 4 times laughing. He was straight faced he was just looking at me the entire time because
Or Trans Ams too. I told him, I was like, I'm gonna put a 2J in a Trans Am. He just looked at me. He's like, I will fucking kill you.
you did not say that to him.
I did. He's looking at buying a 77, I think.
Oh god.
He's like, if the engine's broken, you should put a 2J in it. He just looked at me like, I will kill you.
RB26. Okay, now on the other side of that, right? If it's obviously if we flash to Tokyo Drift here, where the RB26 swapped a 65-ish Mustang,
That was blasphemous.
it was, but at the same time, it was kind of cool.
See, I'm more of one of those guys where if you have a classic car, if the engine is still with it, don't fucking swap it. Keep it numbers matching.
There wasn't an engine in there. The car had an empty.
It's what I mean though. But going off of not going off of that, but to add on to that, like if you have a classic car and it has numbers matching everything, don't put an LS in it. For the love of God, I will slap you.
Oh yeah.
Only do it if the thing is completely fucking
Oh.
grenaded.
I got an interesting one for you. An interesting
Me?
word swap. Yeah. How about a motorcycle swap? You throw like a Harley Davidson into like a FB RX-7, so like replacing the 12A rotary. I've seen that on Facebook once, and like I think the car sold, but it worked.
I thought you were going opposite, where I've seen people take like a Harley or an Indian platform and put like a freaking like V8 into the damn thing.
I don't know why the hell you
I've
do
seen
that.
I
I
don't know why the fuck you do that. Like, let me just burn my legs for 2 hours.
Like
I like the back and forth rattling of this engine. I can't control.
And on top of that, there's way a lot of power. Like you LS swap your Harley. That's what 300 horsepower. Like depending on the LS you put, that's 300 to 450 horsepower, going directly to one tire.
One wheel. Yeah, that is the epitome of one wheel.
And the other thing that I have to ask on that, what transmission do you pair to that? Unless you just have it run off the flywheel.
I think you do just fucking direct drive. You do a direct drive to a weird flywheel combobulation thing to a chain. There's no way you can get a transmission in that. And if it's direct drive, that's like, and now I'm not going anywhere.
Well, like still, I mean, technically, first gear is like up to 70 miles, or can be like anywhere from 50 to 70 miles an hour at very top end. but you're still looking
Yeah.
at like 40 miles an hour, right?
Yeah, which is ridiculous. I mean, I can see it in like if you're building like a drag bike, I can see that.
But even
But
then, you
you know,
still
your
need a
average
transmission.
60-year-old, yeah, your
But-
average 60-year-old who's just gonna go cruising on the weekend. No.
Come on, Benny, let's take the Harley out.
Yeah, do we want to take the old Roadrunner that for some reason has 1,500 horsepower, or our straight inline LS6 with fucking 800 horsepower? Like, no,
No, I'm talking.
no.
I'm talking about like where somebody would put like a Harley engine in like an FB RX-7.
I've never seen that.
I've
To
only
be honest
seen
with you,
I've only seen it once, and I thought it was kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie, the fact that it worked, but
see, I can see certain motorcycle engines going into smaller cars.
yeah, I have here like a smart car.
Yeah, I was gonna say a BMW Isetta.
Well, that's probably what it's got in it already is a motorcycle
Probably. It's got a little Vespa engine.
engine. Alrighty.
You'll P50.
Well, I guess while we're on our favorite engines here, and worst favorite, obviously, what about power levels? So, what to you, like, what is your standard? Like, what would you want out of your car specifically? What is your standard?
So I did mine kind of based off of kind of how like this is gonna sound stupid, but how Forza does their like class ranking system. Kind of did it based off of that. So what I have is I have 3 different bullet points. I have 3 different horsepower ratings and rankings.
Yeah.
And I just kind of broke them down. Then we can break them down even further as we get into it. But what I did was 0 to 299 horsepower. That's going to be your your daily family car that you're going to go grocery shopping. Like Camrys and all that shit. But yeah, there's some Camrys that like the new TRD one has like a stupid amount of horsepower. Right?
Yeah.
But in your normal everyday Civic, crossover, whatever, you're only going to get like 150 to 200 horsepower.
So something like your typical Subarus kind of deal.
Exactly.
The grocery getter, yeah.
The grocery getter, the school goer, whatever, whatnot. Then I bump it up to 300 to 799 horsepower.
That's a
That's
big
gonna be
jump.
That is it's 1 horsepower, but the gap.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It's going to be your sports, your muscle, and your haulers, like your pickup trucks. Most pickup trucks are going to be around that 350 to up to 500.
Well, at that
depending on
point,
what
it's
it
more
is.
torque than it is horsepower.
Exactly. The reason I did sports, muscle, and everything else is because there's such a broad spectrum when you get into muscle cars, sports cars, and there's sports muscle, and there's track muscle, then there's a whole.
You got a lot of like pony cars kind of deal. Yeah, I got you.
Exactly. That's why I made it so wide, because there's such a big range of different, or a range within those 3 different ones. And then I went from 799 up. That's going to be your supercars, hypercars, or your
And like your like drag, like you go to the drag strip every
drag
month kind of deal, or I mean, I guess if you
race car.
yeah, I was gonna say essentially if you wanted to, I guess drift with 1,000 horsepower, go for it, but
It's pretty stupid, but
or autocross, hill climb, I guess if you're out
hill climb you
out
could do,
in
yeah.
Colorado, but
Yeah.
it's
not here.
I would agree with you on that. I think from my standpoint, it just depends on the car that I have and kind of the vision I have for it. Obviously, like my truck that I have, I'm leaving it stock because, as you said, it's got to have its purpose of like tow pig. That is my grocery getter too. And on top of that, it's got 4-wheel drive, and I have to go through snow. So, the 350-ish horsepower it's probably got, that's all it needs. It doesn't need more. It doesn't need, it doesn't need a shit ton done to it. Whereas
It's like my truck.
Yeah.
Like my truck is I have a 91 Silverado, right? That thing's got maybe 350 horsepower, but it's got twice, if not 3 times the torque on it.
yeah, my
So
truck's
that's all I need.
my truck's the same, being diesel.
That's
you
mine's gasser, but
know. And then I'd have
and
to
then too.
I'd have to say
sorry.
for that project, again, it depends on what all's going on, but and the purpose of the project. But even for me, I don't want to sit there and I don't want to have something built. Even for like cruising around, right? I don't want to sit there and be like, yeah, let's go for a cruise, right? But I have an 800 horsepower Fox body, for example. I don't want to go out there with that, just cruise around for a little bit, because there's 2 things that's going to happen. if there's another person out there with, I know there's a black GTR roaming around here. That black GTR, he's gonna be like, I don't want to race this kid on the street. And then the other
Yeah.
thing that's gonna happen is I don't think I'm gonna enjoy it all that much. Like, for me, I think, and this kind of goes into the next point, which is how much power is too much power. I think depending on your purpose of your vehicle, I'd say over 500 horsepower is kind of too much. Granted, this is also coming from like I guess 2 or 3 years of kind of just going to car meets, and on top of that, just kind of like meeting people and just seeing what they all had built. Like, I've seen a 1300 horsepower GTO. Guy can't get traction anywhere, and I'm like,
No.
you know, because
There's no point
the
at
drag
that point.
racing class he's in, he can't upgrade his tires, and so
Otherwise
he
he'd go up a class.
yeah, or else he'd go up a class, and then, you know, essentially he would be on the lower tier of that class until he could do something. But like, and then at that point, it makes me sit back and wonder, you know, and it depends on the car too. If I were to do something to this car, where am I going to want to stop at? Like, what number is going to make me stop? And for me, project cars, I think 650 to 700 horsepower is a good stopping point. That's where the, you know, how much power is too much. Because at that point, you have too much of a race car over, like,
Just a driver.
a driver, yeah.
Right.
And I'm kind of at the point in my life where I like having more of like a show car with a little bit of power to it, but not too much done. I just want something clean. I don't want something,
Right.
you know. That's my standpoint.
You want something that you can go to a car meet or go to a show, be like, hey, you know, if you wanted to go and do something stupid on the street, sure, but more or less it's just like, hey, let's go and appreciate the car more than anything. I kind of agree with you on that, but it also depends on, like, with me too, like with my like what my projects would be. Like, say if I had all the money in the world, you know, some of my projects start at the 500 horsepower range.
Oh yeah.
So it depends on the car and what you're starting with. Like, say if I went and bought, let's just say I went and bought a 2017 GT, right? AMG GT, right? That thing starts at 577.
Yep.
So I would probably cap it at like 800. Like, all right, I don't want something stupid crazy. I want it to sound good. I want to put some stuff into it. Obviously, the stuff to make it sound good is going to get a little bit more horsepower out of it, but nothing like stupid ridiculous.
Oh yeah, like
There's some people out there that take R10s, Audi R8s, like put 2,000 horsepower to the damn thing.
Yeah.
How?
Or like Lambos. I
that's-
think there's a 3,000 horsepower Lambo just for drag racing.
Yeah.
I'm like,
That's ridiculous. Like, no, that's like unnecessary. Unless you're gonna go drag it, like, right? It's a specific or specified race car. Like, there was a Viper ACR that I saw that had 2,400 horsepower. Like, unless you're gonna just specifically drive it on a trailer, race it at a track in a straight line, and then trailer it back, there's no point.
no. And that's why, like, sitting here where I like having my own stuff with everything there, right? My projects, I can't see any more than like 650. It also depends on the car and what I want to do. And obviously, if I drive the car more and I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to take this in a straight line, but I want it to be fast. Then I would go through the process of like breaking that 700, 800, and maybe even 4 digits. All of a sudden, now I'm in 1,000 horsepower in this car.
Right.
You know, but then that ruins that car's aspect. Like, if you there's so many certain things you have to keep track of. Like, if I want to make this thing still a street car, I have to do this. You know, and so. Like, at that point, that's what makes it decide between, all right, is this going to keep being my cruiser, or is this going to be my race car? And with that, I think power levels go back and forth. But for me, like, 650 to 700 is, from the standpoint of cruising, that's like top tier. So
I'm with you. So with this whole like power ratio and everything else, we can start having that conversation of when you're building these cars, adding modifications to it to get that horsepower. Well, what do you prefer? What do you think's better? Turbos, supers, nitrous,
okay. Honestly,
naturally aspirated, or I'll throw pro chargers in too.
I'm a turbo guy all the way. I'm sorry. I've owned
Turbos?
two turbocharged cars, or one car, one truck. Love the sound of it. I love the power. And to me, the lag kind of makes it worth it. Like, it's kind of a weird way to describe it, but my Speed 6, every time like just taking off from like or like getting like a nice slow start from a stoplight, like that first gear going, and then the second I'd hit second and I'd like kind of step into it more, you're like, what's that? It's literally like wait now, and then you just and you're like whoa, and then like thrown to third, there's a slight bit of lag, and then it's back at it, and it just turbos to me just make it seem, way better. Like nothing beats the sound of turbos in my mind. Nothing beats the power it makes. Yeah, it's gonna suck low end, but high end, it's gonna be awesome.
Right.
In my opinion, they make more power. But yeah, and then on top of that, there's also like the power band on your car too that you're working on. I think can be a little bit more flexible with turbos. Whereas like the contrary being superchargers, it's a good alternative. Don't get me wrong. They have a great whine sound, and I mean it's good power off the line. Like again, I'm kind of speaking from a little bit of, I guess, a drag racing standpoint on this, is it's great power off the line, great torque, and it's instant, right? But it also takes power to make power.
Yeah.
Right? And so you're only going to make, like, if you do, like, take an LS3, do a couple things with it, you're making, let's say, 500 horsepower before you supercharge it. You supercharge it with, and you make it, or with an LS6 or LSX supercharger, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden now you're making 520 horsepower, and you're kind of sitting there going like, well, what the hell? It said that, I could make like, and it's like, well, you can, and you probably are, but you're restricting yourself because it's running off of the crankshaft. And so, and then on top of that, since it's hooked up to the crankshaft, you have to make sure your boost is in control, or else you're going to continue to create boost your entire power band. If you don't hit rev limiter till 9,000 RPM with a supercharger, you're going to be making like 60, 70 pounds of boost, and then your engine's going to send all 8 pistons to Mars.
Which is what happened to my Mercedes. Was I got into it because I have a supercharger. I'm more of a supercharger guy than a turbo guy. Because I've ran both. I had a Honda Civic that was turbocharged, and then my Mercedes is supercharged. And I like the instantaneous power with it only because it's such a powerful engine, right? Mercedes, the 5.4 liter V8. It's got the power to get that thing spinning, right?
Yeah.
You obviously you can control how much and how fast you get up to that supercharger up to speed by the pulley.
Yep.
I had a bigger pulley on whatever. Of course, I'm going through it. I'm getting down on it. I went to shift. I missed the shifter. I missed the little lever knob, the shifter knob. Missed it. I think I rev limit at $8,500, right?
Oh, wow.
I think I hit it. Yeah, it's high. It's high. That's weird. But it is a single overhead cam, so it kind of allows me to have a little bit more play. I got up there. I hit it. I hit $9,000 and poop. I don't know how much boost I was pushing because I don't have a meter, but I blew the back thing out. But that's the risk you take with a supercharger over a turbocharger. With the turbocharger, it's a little more like easy, entry level and power where you don't have to really worry about it blowing. You have to worry about the turbocharger blowing up more than your engine.
Yeah.
Whereas the supercharger, you worry about blowing your engine up over the supercharger.
And on top of that, too, like, you hear people with turbos, it's like, how much boost are you running? And you're like, yeah, 45 pounds. That's normal to hear with a turbo, which is weird.
Yeah.
And then you associate supercharger. How much boost you run? Yeah, I'm running like 10 pounds. But that's the reason, is because it's 10 pounds consistently across, right? Whereas turbos, you're running 40 pounds of boost, but that's only at the almost at that top end.
It's like top end as you're building up. It's like, oh shit.
Like my Speed 6 at idle, I think made -9 pounds of boost at idle. Me sitting at a stoplight, it was -9 to -10. And then the second I started going, like if I just started like normal, I could get it up to like 2 pounds of boost. But the second I step on it on a nice night, 17 pounds of boost.
Which is good for the smaller engine that you had.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. And another thing that I'm gonna say on this too, superchargers are like 2 to 3 times more expensive.
Oh no, 100%. If I wanted to replace mine on my engine, there's only one I can buy. It's $10,000.
Yeah. Whereas turbos,
Compared to
You're
a
looking
turbo,
at,
I can
like-
get 45 mil for like what, $400
probably
roughly.
depending on
I
your
can
power
go
band,
get a, I can go
depending
get a
on
60 for I don't know what, 750.
yeah. And on top of that, on top of that, you have the whole like conversion kit and everything, right?
Uh-huh.
The other kit's probably gonna cost you $2,000 in total, right?
Yeah.
You probably don't have to change out your intercooler.
Nope.
So I'm just saying,
The other thing,
and that's one of the reasons why I like turbos is because it's cheaper and more affordable in that regard. And I guess you could say it's cheaper power, but is it really
Yeah.
when you're running 40 pounds of boost top end, and you make like you don't have that any loss in power off the crankshaft.
Yeah.
So that's that on that end. That's kind of why I favor turbos. And I guess I actually am kind of liking this too. That and finding out that you're more superchargers. But I guess since owning your Mercedes, you've leaned more that way. What's your opinion on nitrous?
that's tough. Nitrous is tough because you can only use it in certain setups. You can use it in certain areas. Honestly, if I'm gonna do nitrous, I'm gonna have a car that's making 1,500 horsepower at a drag strip. That's the only time I'm gonna use nitrous.
Oh yeah, and I'll agree.
I'm not gonna have it hooked up to anything else. There's gonna be no other forms of boost. It's gonna be an NA with nitrous.
Now, I actually will kind of counter that. If I have depending on it, if I had a drag car that had 1,500 horsepower, right, turbocharged, right, depending on launch and everything, if I have to sit there and obviously before the light counts down and as I'm building boost, right, and I only build, let's say my turbos can hit 50 pounds of boost, right, but as I'm sitting there trying to build that boost up and I only get to like 10 pounds of boost, there's still so much lag before it takes off. Nitrous can fill the lag. Then you can tune it. You can tune it to do that, and essentially it would just be like first gear. I only want nitrous to replace it or replace the lag because once you're in your gears, that boost is hitting from the turbo, and you don't need nitrous.
See, but at that point, why would I go spend the money on a few cans of nitrous when I could just throw a Pro Charger on it?
That's true. Well, Pro Chargers are also expensive as hell. But
true.
But I will say nitrous, it's a cheap gimmick. But I will say if you want to have total fun with it, like if you have a ratty old Honda Civic engine, throw a big can of nitrous in the back, tune it up to like 150 shot, and go nuts. It'll be funny as hell for the time being, especially if you don't want that motor and you just blow it to hell.
Our old Civic with 150 shot of nitrous, dude. You'd be racing the Atlas 1 rocket that just launched to the moon. Like, God.
So but the other contrary on that, if you install it wrong, there's your motor. Bye.
Boom. Boom. Or if you don't tune it right, boom.
Yeah. And so then you also have your wet shots and dry shots. So then you got to know which one's which, and then also when I'm not gonna lie. There's three good flexes in the world with this all three of these like power bands, right? Turbos, nothing beats the flutter. Nothing.
No.
The supercharger whine. And I'm sorry, but when you're at a car meet or something and you see somebody purge the nitrous, I'm sorry.
It is scary. I will admit, purging nitrous does look scary until you realize, like, oh, he just used half of his tank.
Yeah, likely. Then I guess what do you just feel about naturally aspirated? Like, let's say somebody's just like, you know what? Screw turbos, screw supercharger, screw nitrous even. I just want an 800 horsepower LS3 naturally aspirated.
So when it comes to naturally aspirated stuff, I don't think of like race cars with naturally aspirated. I don't think drag cars. I don't think autocross. Usually there's gonna be some sort of turbo on it. But I think naturally aspirated, that's gonna be going back into your
classic muscle.
Your classic muscle where it's like, here's 1967 Shelby, or you got a nice 70 GTO or a 69 Camaro, whatever. You're not going to do anything stupid to it. You're going to make it sound like it sounded.
Oh yeah.
The year it came out.
It's the respect thing at that point. With
like cars. That's when I think NA, I think of building a car to how it's supposed to be, to how it's supposed to sound.
Yep.
Like it's your show car. Like that's true, legit show class car.
Yeah, and I can respect somebody if like they took something like that. Like let's say a 71 Dodge Charger for something, right? Obviously one of the first things people think of when they see when they, or especially car enthusiasts when the 70 or 71 Charger is mentioned is the Fast and the Furious, obviously.
Oh, the massive fucking blower.
Massive blower. Right.
Yeah.
But let's just say it's some example. Some guys like, you know what? I want to take this motor, which I can't remember. I can't remember what they were. It's like a 440 big block or something like that.
It's something weird like that.
Some Dodge guy that knows, please throw it in the comments. I'd actually really like to read it.
Yeah.
But essentially, like if they just took that motor, kind of cleaned it up, bored it out, did everything. Essentially, it'd be like with what Chevy guys do with like the 350s and like the 454s. They bore
stroke it like a 383.
A 383 or a 505 stroker.
Yeah.
Like if you took a Chevelle would be an even better example. In with big 454. 454s are gutless as hell, but you throw 505 stroker kit on it, and it actually does. It sounds good. It kind of lives up to what a 454 was supposed to be. So I mean, in those regards, I would say that naturally aspirated part it'd be rather nice. So. But otherwise than that, like if you're gonna go naturally aspirated build, essentially build it up, but when you make your power that you want, and then you feel like you're missing something, then you add turbo supercharger. I don't think there's anything wrong with building NA at first and then be like, okay, now I'm ready for something like this.
I was just say it's a good like building. Like, all right, now you're getting used to this higher power. Then you can add that extra, whatever the turbo's going to give you, or whatever the super is going to give you. So you're not just going into it like, oh, I'm not going anywhere. My wheels are spinning.
Well, I think I just heard something outside because it sounded like somebody missed a shift here.
Oh, missed shift. I don't even have a missed shift.
Well, I guess it's a good thing I've got one. I think Dodge again. We're going Dodge again this week, everybody.
Okay.
Dodge missed an opportunity on building another Viper.
We talked about this the other day at work, and I completely purged it from my mind. But yes, I 100% agree with you.
I know you and I talked about it because I brought it up to you, and it was like, I think if Dodge were to do this, another 7-speed T56. And I think they would have to, at this point now, having a staple of a supercharger on their Hellcats and even to the Demons now.
That is a big ass supercharger.
It's gotta be a supercharged V10. I would be fine if they shoved a Demon motor into it. I would be. But I think with the Viper legacy that's been out, it has to be a V10.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure all the Viper fans out there, or the Dodge fans, would probably shoot you.
Yeah, and that's why I'm saying, like, but you and I have had the talk where, like, if there's a Viper, like, all the Vipers they sound amazing, don't get me wrong, but it feels like there's something missing. And now that Dodge has had this staple of, a Demon driving by and you hear that whine as it, drives by, all of a sudden a Viper drives by and you're like, it sounds good, but there's just something
not
missing.
Much to it. Yeah.
They got to do it. I would feel like if they missed an opportunity to do something like this again. And I feel like, especially with Chevy's Corvette, they had the perfect competitor right there. The C8 Corvette's great. Don't get me wrong. The one downside I don't like is the interior, but that'll be
all Corvettes.
Yeah, that'll be something that is either covered on another episode or whatever. But with Dodge, I'm sorry, it's the Viper. You missed an opportunity, Dodge. You did to compete with something like the C8 Corvette. Like, let's say at the Nürburgring, or even like that, right? Like the 24-hour races, you completely missed another opportunity on that. And if you built another one, you could try and beat your own manual record at the Nürburgring again and prove your staple to the world that Dodge still means business.
in V10s.
In V10s. Well, hell, even like a higher end sports car too. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think, that's my miss shift of the week, is I think Dodge completely missed an opportunity to try and, build another Viper, and especially with the competition that's ramping up with all of these cars. You got obviously your GT3 RSs, these new C8s. Well, the C8s aren't going to be racing. I think it's NASCAR now that'll be racing at the 24 hours now.
Oh yeah, NASCAR. Yeah, that's right.
And so,
which that's stupid.
Yeah, it's still stupid.
It's so stupid.
I mean, you've got all these staple cars, and it's just like you could try and prove yourself to the world a little more here on this one. So instead of
stick your neck out from like all the other American, the Mustang's gone, it's the Mach-E now, the Camaro's gone.
Camaro's gone. The Mustang's still sticking around.
It is, but it's got its name, kind of stomped in the dirt by the Mach-E.
Yeah. I know we covered that on the last episode, but
we covered it on the last one, but yeah, the Mustang is not. It hasn't felt like a Mustang the past few years.
No, just because the name's been borrowed, and but so if any Dodge fan is out there, I know we kind of have ragged on Dodge the past 2 episodes, and I'm not going to promise that we can't the next episode, but
we dog on them because they're the only ones who are able to save the future of muscle.
You know what? That is true. And I guess I will. Whoops! What is going there? Whoop! Wait! Hold on. There we go. Hold on. Alrighty. I opened Microsoft Word, and for some reason, it started to open up on my other monitor. So, people on YouTube that are listening to this, you will have seen part of my Microsoft Word. But anyways, that covered Nate's face. Not like he's all that important. I'm just kidding. Wow. I'm just kidding. Alrighty. Next week, we're still kind of dealing a little bit on engines here. But we're essentially going to be kind of diving into like gas versus diesel versus electric. And then we're even going into transmission stuff where we've got automatics versus manuals with clutch. And then we have the dual clutch system. So technically manuals without a clutch. The physical clutch pedal. And then on the last one, the classic car legacy. So essentially the generations of the Camaro and the generations of the Mustang as examples. So that's something we're going to dive into next episode. It was great talking to you guys, or talking for you guys so you guys can listen. And then, I don't have anything else to add for this episode. Do you there, Nate?
The only thing I'm going to say is with next week going into that classic cars versus, the legacy of it, is I'm really looking forward to that one. Like I mentioned in the first episode in our introductions, is I love the history of vehicles and automotive and everything else like that. So I know Carbon here said we're going to cover, like the Mustang, the Camaro, and all that legacy. But I honestly, I'm probably going to go into some of the going way back into some of the old Cadillacs, some of the old Chryslers, the early days of Chrysler, the early days of Ford, and like how Ford and started the automobile industry in America, and then GM got involved with DuPont and that whole fight. And crazy, that's what I'm really looking forward to. So I'm going to hopefully share my knowledge of the history of automobiles in America, at least. With you guys next week.
That's all we got going for today. Thank you guys for taking a listen to the podcast today. We will catch you guys next episode. And if you guys, again, as a reminder, if you guys have anything you guys want to talk or want us to talk about or want us to, give our opinions on, feel free to let us know. We are very happy to discuss whatever it is. And I mean, who knows? Maybe we even might already have it on the list. So, alrighty. This is co-host number 1, Carbonated, signing off. You guys have a good one.
So yeah, drive safe, everyone.